half of the total user base, if my calculations are anywhere correct, they're pulling in $10 to $12 million per month, every month, without doing anything except letting their software work for their customers. That's literally it. It is a license to print money. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and our failures. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 more extremely hot topics today that are very relevant in the agency world. The 3 are as follows. Number 1, I want to dive into the importance of content creation. I want to share some data, some numbers of how content creation has evolved for me over the years. Gary's going to dive in and share some numbers for him because he's been crushing it on his content creation game for a couple of years now. The next thing we're going to touch on is a really exciting thing. Microsoft is literally starting to take over the world. They've released a new competitor for one of our favorite tools, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. And the final piece here, this is very relevant for agency owners because I feel like agencies and SaaS companies, which is the third point here, have a little bit of a beef going on where it's like we talked about this multiple times, hard to scale, easy to start, hard to start, easy to scale. SaaS companies are printing money, and I would love to share some numbers with you guys when we get there. But with that being said, let's dive right in. Gary, talk to us about content creation and how that's changed your life.
Yeah, so content creation is very, very interesting because when you first start it, you kind of are like, hey, I'm going to create content and I'm going to sell things to people, right? So like, hey, buy my product, buy my product, buy my product. But guess what? No one wants to watch content like that. So you have to actually figure out what your personality is and how you want to convey that to the world. And it has to be above the sales process. So marketing sits on top of sales, and you have to have things that are relevant to what you're talking about, but they don't necessarily have to be connected. So like for me, I love talking about marketing, entrepreneurship, running a company, and I talk about those things all the time, but how does that help my business? Well, indirectly, it puts me in a position of authority. So then people go, oh, Gary must know about marketing dental offices because look, he's marketing himself. I see him all the time on LinkedIn or on Instagram or Facebook. So I see his content all the time. So obviously he knows about marketing, even though the marketing that I do for myself in no way is similar to the marketing that we do for a dental office. It's kind of like the Gary V approach. Gary V's agency gets hired by Coca-Cola because he's figured out how to make videos that young men love to consume. Do they have anything to do with each other? Nah, probably not. They're quite a bit different, right? But he's figured out how to leverage that.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen content creation evolve. I mean, it's crazy. Like we talk about Gary Vee, but I was 14 when I first found Gary Vee, and that's 6 years ago now when I first started listening to Gary Vee. And back then, Gary, I remember, was like content creation. Gary was talking about podcasting 6 years ago before you could even do anything like podcast clips, which is what I built the back of my entire company on. But content creation, I mean, like Gary, for me, right, I started creating content, I think possibly earlier than you did. I was creating content at basically 14 years old, so 6 years now. I made my first YouTube video.
Before me. I've been making content just over a year, I think, maybe a year and a half.
Well, listen, your progress has been much faster than me because you have a lot more expertise and experience than I did at the time. My content at the time, it was really just documenting it. Like I would just document really everything that I was doing. I would make videos of everything I was doing, things I was building, things I was working on, and the struggles I was, experiencing. You can actually go back there and see for an entire year, I did a series called Struggles of Business. But what was the power of the content and why is it relevant in today's 8-Figure Agency episode? Well, listen. Now, I've been able to really find, I've struggled with authenticity in my content all the time. So even from day one, Gary, and you might have experienced this a little bit yourself, or maybe not, I've struggled with creating content that I felt authentic and real creating. It's always been a little bit fake, and I hated it. That's why for the longest time, I would go create content for 6 months, then stop for 6 months, and create content for 2 months, then stop for a year, right? And I hated it until I started working with, FlowLink. And then that changed everything because for me, it's night and day. Now, if you look at my page, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it on screen, I'm actually getting video views, but I'm getting those views because I'm creating authentic content. How has authentic content affected your reach, Gary? So you mentioned in terms of not connecting it to the dental marketing stuff, but what results have you seen because of creating content? What opportunities have come your way?
Well, it makes you credible. So we have a big event that we're going to do. So we've done several events now that we've hosted, and we're doing more, and we're making them bigger and bigger. And I'm asking people to trust me on investing a lot of money into these events. And guess what? A lot of people are saying yes. And guess why they're saying yes? Because they know me. How do they know me? They know me because they see my podcast popping up in their threads. They see my face almost every single day. If you're in the dental industry, I am in your feed constantly, right? So, and that's what I've set out to do, is just have my face recognized. And there's a couple different strategies that we've done to make this happen. And we can go into that. I don't know if you want to go down that road or not, Derek, but there's different ways to get into people's feeds, and that authority gives you credibility and gives you opportunities that you just wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, it's all about authority and credibility. Really what I'm going for there is just if you are listening to this and you're not creating content, whether you're writing tweets, whether you're making LinkedIn posts, whether you're making TikTok videos or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, or you're making YouTubers, whatever you're doing, you need to be doing something, right? So as the agency owner, you need to be making some sort of content. It is so important. I mean, I'll give this example and then we'll move into our next topic here. About 5 months ago, I made a video saying I'm hiring video editors. I get 2 to 3 DMs a day to this day about people wanting to work for my agency as video editors. I will never have to do an Upwork post again to hire anybody because my DMs are flooded. Everybody I've hired in the recent months has been they've been inbound leads. Having those inbound leads wouldn't be possible if I didn't make one TikTok video, pinned it to my page. I think the video did a few thousand views. And to this day, it still gets views and it still gets people. That's the power of good content. I mean, that's the power. It is extremely powerful, whether it's to hire people, to get new clients. It is ridiculously powerful. But with that being said, if you're not creating content, you have to do it. But speaking of powerful, Gary, Microsoft. What is Microsoft doing? They're taking over the world, Gary.
Yeah. So you actually sent me this. I didn't realize it because I don't play in this playground quite as much. But they are creating a Canva competitor, and this is actually going to kind of ducktail into the third topic that you want to talk about around SaaS. You can make a lot of money in the SaaS world, but the one thing to understand is that people can copy you and make a freemium model and steal all your business overnight. And that's very, very possible to do in the SaaS world. So I don't know a lot about the Microsoft Canva competitor. Could you give me a little bit of a rundown on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to like this. So this is mind-blowing stuff. You guys probably seen the website here on screen right now as I go through it, but it is insane. It's called Microsoft Designer, and it's literally like ChatGPT and Canva mixed together. So right now there is a wait list, and you can literally go here, type in to the engine, like what you want it to say, describe an image you want the software to make for you, and then it will literally generate a bunch of variations of images and graphics that you can use based on the description you put into it. So no longer do you have to manually design stuff. You can just write your image in text form, and a software will populate it for you. So it's huge. And why I found it significant is not only because we've talked about this a lot now, AI taking over the world, but specifically Microsoft. So not only is Microsoft stealing market share from Google now with Bing, but now they're going after Canva, which is literally the biggest name in like online based design, where it's like the freemium model for their software on there. They have a ton of users. I'm pretty sure, might be wrong, don't quote me, they were either valued at like 11 billion or over 100 billion. I'm not sure. Have to check on that. But Canva's massive. It's a huge company.
And
Microsoft's
they took a shot at Photoshop. So that was
Photoshop.
Yeah, so Photoshop had a high bar of entry because you had to learn how to use it. Then Canva comes out, and it's expensive, and so it's harder to adopt. And the Canva saw the opportunity there and took advantage of it and created a whole new market. Now we're seeing the AI move in and create a whole new market.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I just Googled it, but Canva's worth $26 billion. So that's insane. That's 26 billion with a B. But yeah, no, it's crazy. Microsoft's really starting to take over everybody. But Gary, you're absolutely right. Our next point here on SaaS, right? Talk to us a little bit about the power of SaaS companies. And I have a couple ideas I'd love to bring up about them as well.
Yeah, so the cool thing about SaaS is that if you figure it out, so SaaS stands for software as a service. So now you can have leverage. So there's only a couple kinds of leverage that you can have, Derek. So one is money. So you can use money as leverage to get things done. Two is human capital, meaning employees or team members. And that's probably the oldest. Those are the oldest two that of leverage out there. But then there's technology, and technology allows you the ability to be able to leverage in ways that you couldn't before. And so as an example, you just said, I posted a video, and that one video that you spend 5 minutes on gets you 2 people applying every single day for a job. And that's leverage. You leverage technology into your favor And so you spend 5 minutes and it's working for you day and night and you don't have to do anything around it. Well, software as a service basically does that, where you take a piece of software and you leverage it to do something for someone else and they pay you on a monthly basis to use it or to have access to it, like Notion or something else. Now, you can make a ton of money if you do this correctly. And there's people out there that do this and own companies that make boatloads of money and are very, very profitable because it is robots or it is software that is doing the work, right? However, they're very hard to start because you have to have somebody who actually knows what they're doing and how to build it. And you have to have a product market fit. You can't just pivot all the time and say, now we're going to do this. And now we're going to, in a marketing agency, you can change every month if you want to. You could change your services all the time. So you can pivot very easily based on who you're serving. But in SaaS, you can't just pivot over and over and over and over again because there's labor involved with creating the right product and making sure that it fits.
Yeah, I mean, you've spoken about this many times, but marketing agencies for SaaS, and I mentioned it earlier in the episode, they have a little bit of like a beef. Marketing agencies are easy to start, difficult to scale. SaaS companies are really, really hard to start, but super simple to scale because you build it once and you sell it twice. But if you build the wrong product for the wrong person, that's why so many SaaS companies fail, right? That's why so many VCs lose billions of dollars a year investing in these companies because they end up finding, oh, shoot, I don't have product market fit. So you can't even do anything about that. But hey, my big point with this is, I mean, look, I've been doing prospecting, right, for my company, and I've been coming across a few SaaS companies and trying to figure out how can I take some market share because they have money, they're funded, and I want some of their money, right? So with that being said, you start looking into these SaaS companies you have never even heard of. Like I was on like Crunchbase, which is like a prospecting tool, Sales Navigator, which is another prospecting tool, and they estimate how much revenue they make as well as how much funding they get. So these random SaaS companies I'm finding, and like I saw a post where it's like, oh, we just hit 1 million users. So I said, okay, I'm curious. 1 million users is a lot of people. Let me go check out their pricing. So they had a free offer, a $49 a month offer, and like an enterprise offer. So I said, okay, let's assume half of them are on the free, which is probably, we are very conservative, okay? Half of them are on the free. So that means that there's 500,000 paying customers at $49 a month. Let's assume half of those pay yearly. So let's only look at half of the half. So let's say 250,000 people a month pay $49 every single month. Gary, off of the half, so this isn't even everybody, they're pulling in $10 to $12 million a month in recurring revenue per month. I'm going to say it again because I want this to really register. Half of the total user base, if my calculations are anywhere correct, they're pulling in $10 to $12 million per month, every month, without doing anything except letting their software work for their customers. That's literally it.
Well,
it is a license to print money.
Yeah, well, you have customer service, right? You have to, and then you also have to continue to innovate, Derek. So this is where it gets really tricky, is that, and I kind of alluded to this earlier. So Photoshop was entrenched for years around video photo editing, right? So that was a piece of software that you could buy. It was expensive though, and it was hard to learn. Then Canva comes out, and Canva has a free version, right? So you can come out and just get Canva and get the free version, and all of a sudden you have this free version that's really easy to use versus this paid version that's not easy to use. So which one are you going to choose? So overnight, someone can take your business like that if you're not thinking about your market and thinking about how to make it better. And then again, Microsoft can just take Canva, because there's nothing in Canva that's, proprietary. So someone else can come along and say, we can make it better and cheaper, and then put ads in it. So we don't need to be making worth, 22 billion or whatever you said Canva was worth. We're happy just being a $1 billion company. So we're going to give all the functionality that you get in Canva, all the templates. We're going to have all of that. It's all going to be free. And then we're just going to sell ads inside of our platform. So you have to constantly be thinking about those kind of things. That's the side of SaaS that I think a lot of times people just don't think through.
Absolutely. But here's the thing though. These SaaS companies sit on so much cash, and they're so appealing to investors that if they need money to innovate or money for R&D, they just raise more money. And investors will throw cash at it because they produce so much cash flow every single month. And it's a little bit of a switch. I think you've talked about it in a couple of earlier episodes, but they focus on so much top line revenue growth. And one day they're like, oh, we're spending 20% of our revenue on innovation. We're spending 20% on customer service. How can we cut that to 5% each? And all of a sudden they go from unprofitable to ridiculously profitable. I mean, Airbnb had its first profitable, I believe it was quarter ever. Its first profitable quarter ever. Despite people saying Airbnb is dying, they had their first profitable quarter ever. Why? Because they just literally stopped spending money on certain things. Not because their product was losing their money. They just stopped making certain investments and it instantly became profitable. Instantly. I don't know. I think SaaS companies are like cash generating machines if they run right, but it would be really difficult. I think every company.
So you're thinking, why were you doing this research? You're thinking about starting a SaaS company, or are you?
No, okay. I'm not qualified to start a SaaS
So what are you thinking?
I'm just really curious about business.
Oh, just, yeah.
No, I'm just interested. So I'm looking to expand my agency. So I'm like, who has money? Who can I serve? How can I expand my offering? SaaS companies are very intriguing. But no, I'm just really curious about them. And I love SaaS companies. We were talking about them many times. So I was really curious to see what SaaS companies are out there.
So yeah, there's a lot of agencies that are out there that do B2B SaaS. That's all they do. So they say we only service agencies that, or we only service SaaS products that are for B2B, as an example. So there's all kinds of niches inside the SaaS world as well. It's pretty interesting.
What's the terminology for B2B? For SaaS that serves consumers? Is there a specific industry term
B2C,
for that?
Yeah, business to.
Well, no, more specific for SaaS. Because if you look up SaaS companies that are B2C, nothing comes up. I've tried.
Yeah, because a lot of things are B2C, right? So most softwares are B2C. But B2B, I'm not sure. Yeah, I would just say B2C. I would look up B2C SaaS marketing agencies. Did you already do that?
No.
Yeah, that's what I would search. Yeah, and B2C versus B2B are two totally different things too. Like that's night and day difference. Absolutely. Because B2B is much more, anytime that you're in a B2B business, things are done off of trust more so than B2C. B2C is done less off of trust and more, you can use more direct marketing type tactics that we think of because it's less about trust and relationships and more about the transaction.
Well, Gary, speaking of trust and relationships, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show. If you were listening thus far and you're liking this new format, let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you're listening on YouTube, leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And guys, the clips have been hot. We are on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. Check us out there and tune in for the next episode.
Peace.